when I searched for stuff on YouTube, though, I found a video that said one of the world's strongest suture threads now being manufactured by Ethicon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and if you look at those suture up there, I'm pretty sure all those are by Ethicon. And that's when I think of that Ethicon, I think of suture. But it's not just suture. It's all those things that he was showing. So things to close things. So when you think of Ethicon, think of instruments used to close stuff. Staples,
Staples,
staplers. Yep.
Staplers, anything used to cauterize.
I don't know the number.
Yeah, and one thing I thought he might cover is electrosurgery, and he didn't cover that, which I thought he was, but it's okay. We'll cover it.
We'll get it.
Yep. So on chapter 5, did you guys have any questions about the case study? I know, and you guys did very well. I feel like if you guys make an effort to answer the question, and I can tell that you look up the information, even if you don't get it 100% right, I know you tried, okay? Because you're not going to get everything word for word that, that it says. So it talks about laser safety, okay?
So that'd be like the fire precaution, right?
Right. Fire precautions, using wet towels, using protective eyewear.
I believe also with making sure that you let the patient know not to wear hairspray as
Right.
well. Non-alcohol-based prep solutions, using non-reflective instrument. I forgot that one, but non-reflective instruments, so it doesn't reflective glare on there.
Right.
They use signing like laser use
Yeah.
on the door or
Yeah.
something like that.
And I haven't been in laser cases, period, basically. I mean, I never had to wear any protective eyewear, stuff like that. So the stuff that I've been involved in they didn't use that. I think it's becoming more and more now. They're using it.
Didn't have that as problem.
Yeah, it wasn't then. So okay, so you guys didn't really have any questions about it? No, like I said, you guys did pretty well on that. I don't expect you to know all of it as long as you try. And if you're ever involved in that type of case, they're going to tell you, don't forget this, don't forget that, okay? So it's not like you're gonna walk in and they're gonna say, hey, you don't have this, and this. Because they will have warned you, you have to make sure to have those things. Surgeon won't work with you if you don't have those things. Because they want to make sure that you're safe too. So you guys, there's a lot of different things about the environment of the OR. I don't know if you guys ever realized all that there is about the environment. You might have just thought, oh, an operating room, well, it's just separate from the other rooms in the hospital, but it's not really special, but it is very special. The setup of it is special. The way that on page 76, the way they show that diagram, that's the way most of the ORs that I've been in are. The ORs are basically, you can go around them in a racetrack type thing. So really when you're going into a case that started, you don't want to go through the outside door. So along the racetrack, you don't want to be going in that way. Okay, so if a case is started, you'd go through the middle and there's always doors into the OR that way. Okay, and that's how you would go in. And they do tend to designate rooms for certain procedures. That way they're not moving equipment in and out of rooms all the time. Because like beds and just stuff that is really common to like neurosurgery, they use big microscopes. So instead of having to haul that in and out all the time, it's always in there. What else? All the rooms are pretty much set up for x-ray. In neuro, they use, well, and of course, ortho, they use x-ray all the time. Even in general surgery, they use x-ray. So all the rooms are set up to have it. And they have viewing boxes, to look at the x-rays on a viewing box, but anymore everything is online, digital. So they get their results right away. They don't have to wait for them to go and develop the film and bring it back. And that's how it was when I started. They would have to wait until the x-ray department came back, and it didn't take them that long, really considering, but now everything just keeps getting better and faster. So you guys understand about restricted, semi-restricted, all that? So when you guys go, and we'll take you for a tour of the operating room at San Juan Regional, and it'll give you a good idea of, when you pass the red line, that's when you have to make sure that you have the proper attire. You've got to have a head covering. Okay, and then of course, when you go into an operating room that a surgery is going on, you have to have a mask, right? But if you're not involved in that surgery, you don't have to necessarily have eye protection on. Okay. Decontam room, those will have ultrasonic washers. Really, a decontam room is where we take all of our dirty instruments when we're done with our case, and that's what they do. They decontaminate the instruments, okay? All the electrical outlets in the OR, they're going to be 110 and 220. Of course, all of them must have a ground fault interrupter. Emergency outlets in the OR. And a lot of times I never really thought about that, but they're usually red. And the really important vital things should be connected to that, like the anesthesia machine. That's pretty vital for the patient. If electricity goes out, the operating room is equipped to come back online right away, but even just a few seconds, they don't want that to happen to anesthesia. So that would be plugged into a red circuit. All ORs should have 2 suction outlets. So always anesthesia, and then always one for the patient, for us. Gas outlets, what does the green indicate?
Oxygen.
Yep. So you guys need to remember that. The lights, what kind of lighting comes out of those OR lights?
The blue-white
Beam.
Yeah, the blue light beam for the distinguishment between the veins and the arteries. Be able to tell
Yeah,
the
and
difference.
you're not even gonna really think of that because you just think of light. But it's like it should approximate sunlight.
What page did you
Yeah.
guys find that?
And you'll notice that too after looking at a surgical field for a while, because that light's been reflecting on it for the
Okay.
time. When you look up, you're like, oh, I can't see. Like if
Okay.
you were out in the
Thank you.
sun. So it takes a minute.
Takes a minute to adjust.
Yeah, it does.
78. Yeah,
You guys got it?
like the 4th line under the picture on the right column.
It just says light color approximate to normal sunlight.
Yeah.
It doesn't say
That's
anything about
actually
distinction.
aerial, it's 85.
Oh, it does say that. Yeah, it says it in here later on.
Yeah, 85, a blue white beam.
Yeah, and like I was telling
Okay.
Danny, that it doesn't, you don't really notice that, hey,
Approximates the
that
color
you
of
can
natural
just see
sunlight.
things like you would normally see them. And after looking at that light for a while, you look away and you're like, oh, I can't see.
It's like
Because,
intense sunlight.
yeah, it is. It is. I know they've tried to make them a little softer so they're not hard on your eyes. What about the operating table? What's unique about that?
As breakpoints.
Yeah, it
Oh,
does.
yeah, the break points.
Yeah. So you could put the head to the foot to the head, and it bends, rotates. You can make Trendelenburg, reverse Trendelenburg. So they do all kinds of cool stuff. But what you want to remember is that they have bendable points at the knee, the waist, and head. And then I was asking Danny and Ron about Mayfield headrest, and you guys looked that up, right? So now you know what it is. And that's what you need to learn to do when you see something that you're like, I don't know what that is. That's really part of being a good surgical tech is anytime you don't know what something is, because you guys are going to see procedures, you're like, I have no idea. We didn't cover that in class. Best thing to do is go and look it up, research it. If you're assigned, especially if you're assigned to that room, you need to know about it somewhat. You're not going to remember every detail, but if you remember why the surgery is being performed, you know, what's the purpose? Is to remove something usually, but why is it causing a problem? And that's what you want to know, why and what made that happen. Okay.
How soon in advance would you know, like the kind of case we'd be working on?
That's one of the things about being a surgical tech. You need to be ready to change always, because a lot of times you're assigned something, and then at the end of the day, they usually give you your assignments for the next day. So I would usually, okay.
Time, like even a few minutes before.
Oh, yeah. Well, you get it there, you know, depending on what time you get there before your cases start. If that's the first case of the day, then you've got 15 to 30 minutes, however much time, you know, you got there early to check out and see if you were changed. And that happens not usually when you're a new tech. They try to keep you in cases they know you can handle. But as you start advancing, they'll do that to you all the time. They'll be like, oh, we'll put you in neuro, and then you come in prepared for this big neuro case, and then they say, that case was canceled, so you're going to be in this case. So you kind of have to know. I think that's probably one of the hardest things to get comfortable with, is knowing that tomorrow when I go in, who knows what I'm going to be in. Because it's hard to prepare for something.
That way you just kind of have to suddenly switch your mindset and say, okay, now I was over here, now I got to do it there. So these are the changes I need to make.
Right.
To the setup.
You need to know the instruments. You need to know.
Right.
But, you know, they have really nice preference cards for the surgeon. And so they pretty much are going to tell you, they like this. You know, anything that's really particular about that surgeon, hopefully they wrote it on that card. And if they didn't, the surgeon's going to say, well, didn't you read my preference card? Yes, I read your preference card, but that wasn't on there. And they'll say, you make sure that gets on there to the circulator or whoever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but of course, you know, just all the instruments and stuff like that aren't going to be on there. They figure you know that. Wilson, what's that? So what was the Mayfield again?
The Mayfield headrest was used for craniotomies.
Device.
Keep everything in place.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of, I was going to say like a horseshoe type thing, but pins stick into the head.
Yeah.
And so when they're working on the brain, of course, they don't want the head to move. So they put those pins into the skull, and it holds it in place. It holds the head in place while they're doing their procedure.
And a lot of IBUs for the headache afterwards. So
A lot of what?
a lot of ibuprofen for the headache afterwards.
You know, the skull doesn't really feel pain. A lot of times when they do burr holes on patients, which is they have a hematoma, they've hit their head and now it's bleeding, and so they need to basically drill a hole in the skull. The patients stay awake for that.
You say wait.
Yeah,
Oh, to judge.
Wow.
but they're just awake because the only thing that really feels pain is the scalp. And once they numb that, they don't feel, they hear the noise of the drill,
Do
but
we
they don't
have anybody
feel
ever
it.
freaking out because of that?
No.
You're drilling into somebody and you're awake. You might kind of like going, what's going, you know?
No,
Never
they,
experienced really.
the patients that have gone under that procedure under local have
Wow.
been fine, you know,
Wow.
because the surgeon prepares them and tells them, you're going to hear drilling and, you know, this is what's going to happen. It's really quick. all they do is basically drill a hole and they'll put in something to drain out the fluid, and they'll they put a drain and they leave that drain there, and then they're good.
Wow,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Are all the drills corded or are they cordless or air powered?
Those are air powered. Yeah. Yeah, because you need a lot of power for that. Those types of drills, and we'll go over it when we get into that chapter, those stop when they get to, they have an automatic stop. Yeah, so, you're not going to drill into the brain. Yeah, it would be bad. So, yeah. How about Wilson frame?
Position.
Did you guys look up Wilson frame to know what it looks like?
Oh, yeah.
Page 79.
Used when this patient is placed in a prone position for spinal fusion.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's like a picture on 368 where it shows the Kresge position, and you can see the table he's laying on.
No, that's not just, There's some good pictures here. Yeah, so that's what Wilson looks like, and basically you remove the pad on the OR table and you put this in place. This one here, that one's a little bit, it's still the Wilson on that frame, but that's a different frame that they can use. They can actually position the patient while they're on their back, and then they flip the whole table and they come up like that.
So then, is number 9 also Wilson frame covered into it, or is it something different?
No,
I saw-
that's something different.
Yeah, I saw a fluid drain can with a mesh bottom can attach to the upper table.
That's fine.
Let's see if we can.
Page 79.
It's giving you a
Found that
picture. And so the tables are translucent, so the fluid drain can with the mesh bottom can.
So it pretty much looks like that. Okay, it's hooked at the end of the table, or like this one here.
Oh.
Yeah, so see how that this person's their butt is right there. So basically everything restrains. Because those are for cysto, so urology type procedures. And they use a lot of constant irrigation, so all that just goes into that. Otherwise, if they didn't, you would actually have to have, which some of the older places don't have that. So what they do is they just hook that up, that drain that comes onto the drape, they hook it up to suction. And you just have to be, basically the tech is in there changing out the suction canisters, because there's a lot of them, probably about 10 or 20 suction canisters full of irrigation. Right. Yeah, so there in that same paragraph there, it talks about urology or cystoscopy. They have a fluid drain can with a mesh bottom. So all the surgical equipment is hooked onto what?
Boom.
A boom, yeah. And that's mounted off of what? Yeah, so it can, and when I first started working in the OR, they weren't like that. You used to have to pull carts into the room and move them here, move them there. So now all you have to do is just, that thing is, you just push a button and it, you know, you can move it. It's easy. It makes it really nice to move things around in the room. So some standard operating room furniture. Of course, you have a back table and a Mayo stand. Where do you keep the Mayo stand? Right, so it's going to be most proximal to the surgical procedure. Okay, so it needs to be right next to you.
That's why I put it right next to the surgical table, because I'm only using it.
Right. And I mean, if you are actually using both hands, it's nice if the surgeon can reach up there and get things while you're holding things. Whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not always preferable. They have to grab things, but sometimes they do. Surfaces in the operating room, they're non-porous, they're waterproof, they're easy to clean. The floor should always be non-porous and waterproof. The cabinet doors. Because those things, of course, are going to be cleaned all the time. Wiped and cleaned all the time. All the flat surfaces, when you go into an operating room and you're going to start at the beginning of a day, even though nobody's even been in there all night, they all have to be wiped. The bed, the tables, everything else. At the end of every day, they have a cleanup crew, I guess, that goes in and they take all the pads off the bed. They really thoroughly clean the OR. You guys remember what that's called when they do that?
Turnover.
So turnover is just kind of after every case.
Environments and services.
Environmental will come in and do a thorough cleaning. Let me see if I can find those words.
Turnover.
16.
I'll come across it. I haven't seen it yet.
Maybe, but I remember like hearing that. Page
83.
says clean or turnover.
Okay. There's another word for it, but I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me. So, but usually because of the need to get things turned over quickly, it's us and whoever else is in that room, other than the surgeon, of course, that's going to turn over that room. Okay, so we get our instruments, take them down to CS for them to be cleaned, and then we come back up, help whatever needs to be helped. If the floor needs to be mopped, we mop it. If the tables need to be cleaned, we clean them. Everybody should work as a team doing that. You guys will really see that when you come over here to the surgery center, because they turn things over fast because the patients are there and they're ready for the case. At the hospital, things tend to go a little slower because they got to go upstairs and get the patient, and guess what, they ate, or just different things. So those can tend to be slower, but the surgery centers always, those patients are ready to go. They usually have like 2 or 3 patients ready. So the patients are waiting, on us. So it's quick. I know we talked about sliding doors. So for the test, that's what would be recommended, sliding doors, because of, not letting in air from swinging doors. But like I said, it's always swinging doors that I've ever seen. So the ventilation system, it needs to be positive pressure air,
Yes.
unidirectional. So the air pressure in the OR is kept by ventilation at a higher level than that of the surrounding corridors. So when you open the door, the air doesn't come in, it goes out, if anything, okay?
So the other air contaminator doesn't, it's not coming in, it's
Right,
fresh air being blown out. So
Right.
it keeps everything.
it keeps what can be kept from airborne bacteria from entering the room. How about air exchanges?
20 to 50 per hour, and it's kept with, I know it's the CDC. Yeah, they're the ones that determines guidelines for our air exchanges of 20 to 50, then 20% fresh air outside air per hour.
And what about those HEPA filters? What should they be able to?
0.1 to 0.5, is it picometers?
It's
Micro.
micrometer.
Micrometers.
Micron.
I know it's that little weird symbol.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what is that? Look at that
It's
again.
like 0.1 microns. I'm like, that's small. That's small.
Yeah. And temperature.
68 to 70 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you right now, it's rarely that warm. Very, very rarely ever going to be that warm.
Really?
Usually the rooms are kept very cold.
Isn't that just to decrease the bacterial growth?
Just to keep the surgeons happy. Honestly.
Well, just because all of hospitals are always just super cold, and I thought that was just those warm temperatures are good harboring.
Right.
of bacteria.
That's true. But, they recommend between 68 and 73. And 68 is comfortable, but you're rarely going to be. I always, if I had my way, I'd have a heater going on in there because it was so cold. In ortho cases, it's freezing.
Wow.
As cold as they can possibly get that room because they're hot.
Yeah, I would think that you would have electrical
Just thought it was
equipment going
cool.
on, lasers, and then plus that you don't want the surgeons sweating, getting things in their eyes. And then plus possibly since the patient's there, you don't want their blood to expand when it could be more of a bloody mess where it tends to constrict. With the tissue.
Usually what they do to keep the patient warm, because they do want to keep them warm, is they put on a bear hugger, which basically is warm air on them continuously. So what I did as a tech when I was freezing is I would put my hands on them, because just feeling them, and I'd get close to the OR bed to stay warm,
Wow.
because it's cold. And I tend to be kind of run cold anyway, so for me it was like, okay, you can't wear long sleeves, so of course we're wearing our gowns. And I know a lot of you, like in here, you're thinking it's hot, and I'm comfortable at that with the gown and everything on. So hopefully for you guys, you'll be comfortable. But I wore thermals under my scrubs, just to try to stay warm. And you guys understand about pre-op, holding area and all that? Yep. Okay, so yeah, the patient comes, checks in, and they keep them in there. Make sure they've got everything signed. That's where the surgeon will see them. Anesthesia will come by and check on them. And then they get them ready, have them change into a gown and those cute little gowns, and put a hat on and stuff. Post-op. Yeah.
But you do get to keep the surgical duties afterwards.
Yeah, you get to keep your booties. How about PACU?
It was used to be called recovery.
Yeah.
Recovery.
Yeah.
We call it recovery.
So that's where they go, basically post-anesthesia care. Anesthesia usually goes with them and make sure that everything as far as them waking up is good. And then once they're stable, anesthesia is gone. And the nurse will take care of them until they go home or go to their room or whatever. So a lot of different departments work with the operating room, like laboratory. They need to be available. If they send any specimens to them, they will. It depends. It depends on if they need the results of that specimen, like right now, or they can wait. If they need it right now, then the surgeon will stop the surgical procedure and wait for them to call and let them know. Like usually, like when they do breast biopsies, they send them fresh, and so they send those to the lab right away. And as soon as lab looks at it and says that they got the margins, then the surgeon will. They usually close anyway before, but they'll sit in there and wait. They won't leave until they have that verified.
It says on the pathology department that specimens are sent to the pathology department.
You're right. Yes, it is pathology. Yeah, lab.
It says lab's more like a
Perfusionist.
laboratory.
Yeah. So blood, gas monitoring and all that. Yes, you're right. Thank you. So what about radiology? What are they doing?
X-rays and fluoroscopy.
Yes. And they usually have one or a couple that are assigned to the OR because they do lots and lots of x-ray. Broken bones, so anything orthopedic. When they do a lap chole, why would they do one then? Why would they use x-ray then? You guys have any idea?
To see if they have any
Yeah.
solids.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, so I mean, usually people have their gallbladder out because they got stones, right? So they want to make sure there's no stones in the duct. So that's what they'll do. Formalin is used for preserving specimens. So if they don't need the results of that specimen immediate, then they're put in formalin, which is what we, for the most part, put them in. Otherwise, they're considered frozen sections, and those are the ones that they look at right away. And those are sent dry. Environmental, there we go. Let me see if I can find that. What I was trying to.
It says terminal cleaning.
Terminal, there you go. So terminal cleaning is done at the end of every day. Okay, or if a patient came in that has HIV or MRSA or anything like that, they usually try to schedule those patients for the end of the day. But if they can't, then they will schedule them, and that room cannot be used again until they do a terminal cleaning on it. And those environmental services take care of those type of rooms. CS, a huge department that's responsible for a lot. They're responsible for all the instruments. Yeah. Yeah, they're responsible for even more than that. At San Juan Regional, they take care of all the supplies, like all the packs and gloves and everything you can think of that you probably need for the OR is probably in CS. So we're gonna, you guys, when you start going into the operating room, you're gonna be going into a hazardous place. What kind of hazards are you going to be exposed to?
Physical, biological.
Physical and biological.
Yep. So noise, biological is smoke from the electrosurgical pencil. Chemical is anesthetic waste. And you know, they try to monitor all of that and keep that all under control as closely as they possibly can. I've never been affected by any of those things. I'm sure I have, you know, just physical, the body takes on physical hazards of having to stand for an extended period of time. And I think I've talked to you guys a little bit about compression stockings.
Yes.
Get them,
They're on the list.
wear them.
They're
Yeah.
on the list.
I've seen them, they actually sell those at Walmart, they're about $9.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can get some like at Walmart. I know the vascular guy that did a presentation said that you need to really invest in those, and the really good ones cost about $50 a pair, and then you should throw them out after 6 months. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But, you know, it kind of depends on what you can afford, of course. But
I
at
see
least
they
wear
have-
something.
I seen they have like the stockings, which look like, like pantyhose, and they also have like, the diabetic circulatory socks, which have a bit more fluff on those. Would those still work too?
Socks, yeah. And if you go to the uniform store, they have some there too. I always wore the socks. Yeah, I couldn't imagine wearing something that tight. Yeah, like pantyhose all day.
Then you would be warm, then you don't need.
That's true. I'd be probably walking like, not comfortable. Just wearing the socks is good enough. It helps. It really does. So OSHA, where and what are we supposed to, or our workplace supposed to supply for us, so that way we can.
PPE.
Material
Yes.
safety data sheets.
Yes.
Yep.
So yes, the
MSDS
MSDS.
sheets.
So when you guys start working at a hospital, that should be kind of part of your orientation, is showing you where those are. So if you don't know what effects that something can have on you, then you need to look. You should have that information
I actually have
supplied.
that at my job too.
Yeah.
I think they have them.
Everywhere.
MSDS sheets are
Yeah.
pretty standard for every single
They
place.
change
They are.
Material safety data sheets.
Yeah,
Material
there's
safety
MS,
data
yeah,
sheets.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know that I ever looked anything up to find out what kind of harm stuff. I'd probably be scared if I
Yeah,
looked
you'd be
everything up.
surprised when you read them.
Well, I mean, just like when you get a prescription, if you look at all the things that can happen, you're like, oh my gosh, should I even take this?
Possible side effects?
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
possible side effects. That's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want to live with a disease instead? Because the side effects
I
are,
know.
the side effects are worse.
I'm just sneezing, but look, I could die if I take this. It's true. So, NIOSH is what?
National Institute for Occupational Safety.
Arm with the CDC and
CDC.
establish permissible exposure limits for chemical vapors and gases.
Yep, and they're research oriented. So it's similar to OSHA. And they're an arm of the
There's
CDC.
18. There's 18, which is the following national agencies
Oh.
and arm of the CDC.
Right.
Yep. What about Amy?
The advancement of medical instrumentation.
Yes, so they are, they establish standards for sterilization, electrical safety, levels of device safety, and the use of medical devices.
Which one was that?
Number 50.
That was 15. Which one was that?
50 or 89?
And I'm not even going by this, I'm just, yeah, it's number 50.
It was Amy.
So when you guys start working in a hospital, most likely they're going, when they take you through orientation, they're going to talk to you about safety things, about lifting, bending,
Ergonomics?
yep, ergonomics. All those important things, how to protect your body. So use proper body mechanics. It's going to help prevent injury and discomfort. And we do handle heavy trays, you know, we're helping to move patients, we're pushing things. So it's important to really pay attention to those things. All right, fire hazard and safety. So there is some things in the operating room that can cause fire. What are some of those things?
Lasers.
Lasers, what else?
Electros.
Yeah, because
surgical stuff.
yeah, the ESU or BOVI,
I was gonna say, I wondered if the Bovie could, because it's all, you know,
oh, yeah,
electrical.
anything
Yeah.
electrical. Yep, even just static, right?
right.
From rubbing of drapes and stuff. I've noticed many times when I'm taking drapes off patients, there's a lot of electricity under there. So anesthesia needs to be careful because the gases that they're giving the patient, another thing that's in the operating room, they can build up and cause an explosion. I know that's happened. Thankfully, I've never seen it. And of course, most of the times if that happens, anesthesia, patient's not going to survive. But they're careful with that kind of stuff. So the three components of a fire are what?
Fuel,
Fuel ignition.
fuel, ignition, oxygen.
So it's a fire triangle, right?
Yep.
Yep. Without all those three things, then a fire can't start. What kind of fire extinguisher is best for laser?
See,
Isn't halon poisonous though?
Is it? Yeah. It says it has a low toxicity, so it means it's still toxic, but it's lower than some of the others.
Mhm.
So that's why it's preferred. Prevention is best, of course. So when you guys see instrumentation with black handles and stuff, those are non-reflective instruments. Okay. We're probably gonna get through this early, so that's okay. But if you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. So like we were saying, the electrosurgical unit, the pencil can burn or smolder. So, you know, they come with those little plastic cases to keep them in when you're not using them. And hopefully you can keep it in there. I always just keep my eye on it, no matter where it's at. Because if it got between, you know, the surgeon and the patient, they could accidentally push that. And so it could cause a fire.
Mm-hmm.
They usually keep it in their hand, on top of the patient, on your Mayo stand, or sometimes even in your holder. So they do.
And is that the same as a Bovie, right?
Yeah. So ESU, Bovie, Cautery, those are all,
Those are all the same thing.
yeah. Then you'll hear them called all those different things. So what's the PASS stand for?
Pull and
aids,
Sweet,
squeeze, and
squeeze. Squeeze and sweet.
Squeeze and sweep. How about race?
Remove,
Remove,
alert,
extinguish.
contain the fire and extinguish it.
Yeah, so if you can't contain it, you better evacuate. If it seems like it's getting out of hand, then don't try to be brave and put it out, just leave. And that's another thing. All this type of stuff, you have to go through every year when you're working someplace. And that goes for almost any place you work. You go
Fire
through that.
training and fire safety and everything.
Yeah, yep. So Amy and the Joint Commission developed safety standards for electrical equipment used in the OR. It's on page 89, under electrical hazards. So grounding prevents the passage of the electrical current through the patient by directing the current to the ground. So that grounding pad. Okay.
I think they call it the patient return electrode now, don't they?
Return electrode, yeah. You're gonna hear it called the grounding pad, Bovie pad, yeah. Every patient. What kind of a procedure would you not need that grounding pad for? Can you guys think of something? Have you read something?
I haven't read it, but I saw a question in there where if you have a two-prong,
Yeah. the
then you
yeah.
don't need the grounding system.
Right, and Jules kind of talked about that a little bit. Remember he was saying monopolar.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
You got-
question 43 on the review, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't find it in the quote.
What's the bipolar? So bipolar has two prongs, and we'll read more about that later. So the electrical current is in between those two. Okay, it only travels.
It doesn't use a ground.
Right, so you don't need a grounding pad, but I can tell you they will put a grounding pad on all patients, even if they know they're going to use that. Because just what if they want to use regular Bovie? And they do. They'll use regular Bovie when they make an incision, when they start cutting down. So they just do it. So friction, static electricity, and friction is the concern in the OR, right? You shouldn't be standing there rubbing the drapes together if you've got a nervous habit. It could start a fire. So what is ionizing radiation? Yeah, so X-ray. When you go to work in a facility, they usually give you a badge that you wear. You wear it all the time. It's just basically part of your uniform. You wear it every single day for every single case. That way, when you are exposed to radiation, that's monitoring how much you're being exposed to. And they send those in how often, once a month, every few months. And if they show that you've been exposed to a high amount, then they'll get a hold of you and see what's going on. But yeah, and that goes with you wherever you go to work. So if you go work someplace else, you're still going to have that same, not the same badge, but they'll know your number, whatever. Okay.
What do they do when you've been exposed to too much radiation?
They'll try to find out what's going on, because it might be failure of some kind of equipment. It might be, maybe it's that you're taking risks and not wearing lead when you should be. And you should wear lead for anything that, if they're taking x-rays, you should be wearing lead. What are some other ways of protecting yourself if they're using x-ray?
Standing 6 feet away,
Stand
or
behind the machine.
standing behind the machine.
Or behind the portable screen.
Yeah, or leaving the room. If you're pregnant, that's another thing. Don't get pregnant. Okay. The last class I had, when I first started, there were 2 girls that were pregnant, very pregnant, and then they had their babies pretty quick. And then 3 more got pregnant during the class. Even in Alamogordo, I had one that got pregnant. So I had all these students that were pregnant. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but you guys, no babies, okay? You just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait until after we're done with the program, because when you do go to the operating room, you're going to not be able to go in cases where they have, when they're using x-ray, or you're going to have to walk out every time they're going to take x-rays. And when they do certain type of dental cases, you'll need to move, like ENT cases, you'll need to leave the room. So it's just easier, please just don't get pregnant.
Yeah. Anyways, it says time, children, distance.
Right. Yes. So remember that. You need to. So when fluoroscopy is in use, it should be turned off. And there's radiology tech in there that takes care of the machine. They turn them off. Shielding, of course, always. Should leave the rooms, get away from it as far as you can. I usually, if I didn't want to put, like when they do cholangiograms for lap choles, I didn't want to have to wear lead for the whole case, even though they're pretty fast. I didn't want to wear it, so I would go and stand behind the radiology tech. Or they bring in a lead shield, a big door basically that they bring into the OR, so people can stand behind it. But during orthopedic cases where they're going to be doing x-ray every 5 minutes or whatever, you just have to wear it. And it is heavy. We've got some in the lab. Have you guys seen it?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm sure you will, and I'm sure Gail will have you try it on so you guys can see. It's heavy. So what are some biological hazards?
Sharps. Opening yourself with sharps.
Yeah, even some of those retractors that we use are sharp.
Electrical plume.
Yeah. Putting sharps in the disposable container can be hazardous if you're not careful.
Also says latex sensitivity.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Anybody latex sensitive in here? No? You guys would know by now. Yeah, you'd know if you were, but it's a big deal, you know, if you are. So if we get a patient in the OR that's has a latex allergy, there's a lot of stuff we can't use on them. And they have like a latex free cart that they'll bring in for that patient. So everything like gloves, they don't use latex gloves for anybody in the OR anymore. Really in our lab, we shouldn't have them. They just accidentally got ordered, so we have them. And as soon as those are gone, we're not getting any more latex gloves.
Well, a lot of facilities are also just latex free period, can't take balloons in, they gotta be like that 10 balloons.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Just looking out for all the patients.
Yeah, because a lot of times, you know, you're going to find out that you're latex sensitive because you have some kind of a reaction. So, but there is a lot of stuff that we use in the operating room on patients that, you know, hopefully they don't have a latex allergy or that they know. And that way we can just avoid it altogether. Suturing it's dangerous. You know, passing sharp things, passing suture needles, passing blades, you know, it's dangerous, and we do get cut and we do get poked. We just have to try our hardest to keep that to a minimum. You know, you can't be so focused on it that you're going to be, you know, petrified that you're going to get poked, but, you know, you just need to be careful. And we'll teach you how to pass things safely. They do have things for like hypodermic needles, like the safeties. Most of the surgeons in the operating room do not like those. If they have a safety on them, they're probably going to peel it off, you know, because they don't want that. They want just to be able to give the patient the injection they need, and they rely on you basically to protect yourself. So we'll teach you how to put back a cap on a needle without using your hands.
Dale showed us on that.
Did he?
Little cup and then like put the cap in, just right in there.
Yeah.
On the table.
I see a lot of times, you know, we teach these things and then I'll go and check on students, and because of them trying to hurry, they're putting it on using their hand. And, you know, take a couple extra seconds to do it right. Because it only takes a second to get poked, so. And then, you know, you got to have the worry of, okay, what did this patient have?
They do PET, I think that was.
Yes.
For HIV exposure.
Yep, and that is one of the questions.
Post-exposure prophylaxis.
Yes. So always, in that little checklist there on page 91, always wear gloves when handling specimens. You guys are going to see circulators that don't put on gloves when you're passing them a specimen. I always tell them, if I'm on the other side, I always tell them, you need to put gloves on. But they're adults, and so, you know, you can't make them do things they know they should do. They do things like that. Wear eye protection. You guys, I'm going to encourage you to always wear eye protection no matter what case you do. But, you know, when you're on your own, it's up to you. It's hard. It's kind of frustrating because, you know, you've got this steam building up and you're like, oh, if I could just take this off. And a lot of surgeons you're going to work with do not wear eye protection. But they know the risks that they're taking. I just want you guys, as long as you're students, really, I want you to always wear eye protection.
Are they just safety glasses usually?
Yeah. And so if you guys want to buy safety glasses, you can, but all the hospitals will provide you disposable type. So there's shields, and you guys have probably seen them in the lab. Shields and glasses. And
Should be something though you can also do. There's certain chemicals that you can put on that, keep the fog off and keep it from steaming up, help kind of keep that stuff down.
Yeah, and if you're wearing your mask right,
Yeah.
It'll help. Yeah, it helps. You okay? Oh no.
Was it something you said?
No. It just happens. Oh my gosh.
Didn't mean to offend you.
Neutral zone. So it's probably going to be very rare that you're going to ever see somebody using a neutral zone. Like, okay, I'm going to put my sharps here, and so nobody, touches them when they're here, or that you put your sharps in an emesis basin and pass them like that. I've never seen. Well, actually, I have. I think it was a surgeon in Durango that wanted to do that. Instead of passing it back and forth with the tech, he just wanted to be able to put it in that. And I thought, hey, that's good. But most of them won't do that. So you just have to learn how to handle things. You guys are going to see surgeons, you hand them the blade, they throw it when they're done on top of the patient. It's not going to hurt the patient. They got plenty of padding. But if you don't know it's there, I would say anytime you hand something sharp, you watch it. Watch where they put it when they're done with it. And then get it and do whatever you need to keep it safe. Because that's the one thing. I've worked with surgeons who'll use their hypo and just throw it up on your Mayo, and it's up there like pointing straight up. And if you weren't paying attention, you would get poked. So you just have to really be aware. They handle them so much that they take it for granted. They really do. Yeah, they get careless. But that's up to them. All you can do is just take care of yourself. Laser and electrosurgical plume. Studies have not been conclusive to prove that laser plume contains, it has proved that laser plume contains water, carbonized particles, and intact strands of DNA. So basically, if they're working on a patient that has cancer, that's going into the air. So, all you can do is suction smoke when you can. And if they know that there's a potential hazard, they have smoke evacuators that they can hook up. When they do cases where there's a lot of smoke, they have something they can hook onto the bovie that just suctions the smoke as they cauterize. And like they said, there's when it's laser surgery, they have special evacuators that are required to be used. It says when the tip of the suction is within 1 centimeter of the impact site, approximately 98% of the plume is removed. So, that's easy enough to do. And then, like we were talking about, latex. Made from natural rubber harvested from trees. So I wonder if those people with latex allergies, if they rub up against one of those trees, though.
I don't know, but I know that if you're allergic to latex, you're allergic to kiwi.
To kiwi? Yeah, they'll ask the patients, if they're allergic to peanuts, shellfish, because usually then they've got other allergies too. And then some patients will just come in and say they're allergic to everything. So you just never know.
Or if they're allergic to all the stuff that you want to put on them.
Mm-hmm. Some of them are allergic to the tape. So we have paper tape that can be used on them. Iodine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's shellfish.
How is it?
Yeah, if they're allergic to shellfish, you don't use iodine on them. Yeah. Yep. So, and they don't really use iodine that much anymore in the OR.
One of them, and chapter 12, it said, place the iodine and then let it sit for 5 minutes, 5 to 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and you got to remember this book is actually getting old. I just noticed they came out with a new one. I'm like, oh man, now I have this one down and you're gonna have a new one. I'm sure it's close to this one. But no, anymore they're not hardly using iodine.
Iodine also is, increases scar tissue.
We can't use iodine on some of our patients, and there's, say that access, we only have like this much to stick in their access, repetitive sticks or whatnot. We can't use that iodine just because it would thicken up that skin and it would be harder to
Yeah.
infiltrate.
And of course, the more that something is penetrated or even after one time, it builds up
Oh, yeah.
a harder shell basically. Let's see. What is the test that they can do for latex?
Yes.
RAST, yes.
What question is it?
46.
Or no, that rest.
And what is the immunoglobulin?
Immunoglobulin D.
Yeah. So it's IgE. Okay. It's the most serious reaction to latex. So basically, those patients can die if they are exposed to latex.
Yes.
On number 29, it says what reactions medication has to it. Is it specific, so it would just be allergic reaction? Or would they have like it could be red, the skin could be red, raw, cracky, or if it's a serious allergy, it would be maybe hypotension, tachycardia.
I put as the answer an allergic reaction. Yeah. We talked about the MSDS sheets.
Mhm.
You need to know where those are just in case you decide you needed to do a little bit of reading. So anesthesia, the machine, what kind of system do they have to remove the gas?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dale probably hasn't shown you that on the anesthesia machine.
Not yet.
There's a place on the machine where there's a filter, and they can tell, anesthesia can tell when that filter needs to be replaced. I don't know if it's time or it just starts like a car filter starts getting dirty and you can tell. So that filter, and we'll show you when you're in lab. And there's interesting things that can happen to that filter if certain types of patients are in the OR. But we'll talk about that later. What's polymethyl methacrylate?
Bone cement.
Yes. It's really strong too. And they do use it during orthopedic procedures when they're putting in total joints. Sometimes when they do spinal procedures, they might use it in those too. So you just have to be aware. Hopefully there's some kind of, seems like there's some kind of a air system that removes that from the OR whenever you're using it. You mix it, it's quick. Usually they tell you just before they're getting ready to put in that joint replacement to mix that cement because it hardens up fast.
You probably have a time limit on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a
5
time
minutes to
limit.
use it.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're asking you, okay, you got that bone cement going? Yes. And then as soon as it's ready, you test it to make sure it's starting to get a little hard. They put it in. Formalin. We talked a little bit.
Yeah. Tissue preparation.
For non-frozen tissue.
And when I started working in the OR, they used to have containers of formalin that they kept in the OR so that way they would be ready to take your specimen. But anymore, because, it is carcinogenic, they keep it outside of the OR, and so they'll take the specimen to the formalin. And then they'll just pour what they need in there. It's usually like a little valve that they open to fill the specimen container. That way it's not done in the OR. I worked with a nurse one time who accidentally, there was a big specimen container. She accidentally spilled it. It smelled terrible. It was bad. But that's why they don't keep them in the OR anymore, because, if you spill that and the patient's asleep, you're actually, they're at risk for getting cancer. And then ETO, ethylene oxide, I don't think they're using it anymore. They use that in central sterile to sterilize equipment. But the hazards are so great that I think they have just decided they're not going to use it anymore. And then glutaraldehyde, it's a disinfectant. The fumes can be irritating. So stuff like that, are they using those types of things in the OR? They're pretty careful about what they use. You might not think about it, but they check, do people have problems when we use this product? If they do, then they're going to try to find something that's going to cause the least amount of problems and use those in the operating room. All right, so we went through the chapter, but let's go through the review. Do you guys have questions over any of those? Because I know we did cover them, but just in case.
What was the pack you previously referred to?
Recovery.
Yeah. What's an example of a restricted area?
Or
During a procedure.
All ORs and sterile storage are considered restricted.
Yes.
I didn't find it, someone else just told me about it. It doesn't ever say.
Which one, Ron?
It was like being number 2.
Oh, yeah, on page 78.
But it never says anything about that.
85 is the blue.
Just manufacturers of surgical
Class C.
But yeah, it talks about the trans blood or something.
I know, I was trying to work
And the terms we need to know, what's in the anesthesia part?
Let me look. Anesthesia cart.
I have includes patient monitoring equipment to keep surgical team aware of the patient's physiological status, and it is primarily used by the anesthesia provider. That's all I have.
What question is that?
Oh, it's on the terms you need to know with the anesthesia part?
So basically an anesthesia cart is equipment used by, you guys know what a CRNA is?
certified registered
Anesthetist.
Yeah.
That's what that A is, anesthetist.
Anesthetist.
Okay, so a CRNA is basically anesthesia, okay? And then, of course, an anesthesiologist is a doctor, okay? And the majority of the people who work here are CRNAs, and then they have a MD, a doctor, who basically is over them. Yeah, so that's the person who's in charge. They keep all their equipment for induction, maintenance, monitoring, and reversal of a patient undergoing surgery. So basically all their supplies are kept on that cart. And we have the cart, anesthesia cart in the lab. So basically everything's right there. If they need anything for that patient during the procedure, it's there. Okay.
I got a question on number 19. It says, what terms relate to the potential impact on personnel from the duties of the job description?
Ergonomics.
Like handling, it's
Is it
ergonomics.
ergonomics?
Ergonomics.
I didn't understand the question. What page is that?
That is gonna be on page 86.
So that one,
So tomorrow in lab, I'm gonna give you guys a little quiz on some of those instruments.
uh-oh, that's fine.
We've been,
Hey, I'm telling you.
well, I mean, let's just say, you take your phone, you take pictures of them, and, you know, print them out on your computer, and then you just flashcards.
Yeah, don't worry. If you don't do great, that's okay.
Does that consider the lab checkups?
No,
Okay.
No.
Lab checkups also.
I don't know whether Dell wants to do those yet. I'll ask him. Okay,
Is there a test tomorrow or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah, so Wednesday you guys will take this test,
Oh,
okay?
Wednesday we'll take this
Oh,
test.
yeah.
Okay.
thought it was tomorrow. And then,
Yeah, I thought about it and then I thought, no, we'll just do it Wednesday.
Wednesday.
are we taking chapter 5 tomorrow? No.
No,
Are we taking more than 12 on Thursday?
So-
no.
I'm not ready.
No, I don't think we'll get through 12 on Wednesday. Yeah, mainly because everybody is sent in their well, not everybody, but some people sent in their presentations for the chapter. Those who didn't are going to have to get up here and present. Okay, so if you didn't send them in to me, you got to get up here and present the information. And then, so I don't think we'll cover everything Wednesday. If we do, great, but we'll still take it Monday.
So chapter 12 test will be Monday?
Well, maybe Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
Monday or Tuesday
12's
because
a huge chapter.
it is big. So yeah, we'll see what we get through.
Okay.
Okay.
Is the chapter review only the 24 questions that's on there, or 12?
Because there's
Let
a
me
chapter,
look.
I was gonna say, chapter review 12, chapter 12 review is relatively small compared to the chapter.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, really?
Vocabulary.
Oh, I was like,
Usually they correspond to the size of the chapter in this one.
yeah, and I know that as I got more into the book, I started cutting those reviews down and kind of just giving you the things I felt like you might struggle on, and all the other things were like, you should know this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I'll look over it and I'll make sure that we go over it. I try to make sure that everything is gone over, and I'll say, and you need to know this during class. okay?
Your chapter 12 test, you're aiming for Tuesday?
Probably Tuesday, yeah, because what we don't finish on Wednesday, we'll finish Monday. Okay.
On the review number 36,
Yep.
Harvey Cushing and William Bovee, obviously they created the first artery, right? But I didn't find that in the book.
You know what? I didn't find the page number on that either.
I didn't.
I couldn't find it, yeah. So I don't know why that question's in there, but I guess maybe just knowing Bovee, right?
And then 38, I put class C or halide fire extinguisher, but the question is kind of.
Well, if you think about it, if you sprayed water, you get water all over the place, or you sprayed the other one, you
So
create.
you don't want to spray water on a.
Well, it
You
says
don't
it'd
want
be
to breathe
most
the nail on either, though.
But what would be most effective on a laser?
Okay.
Halon.
So where's what numbers, I couldn't find number 6. What is the electrical engineering? Required operating
Ground fault.
Yeah, and it's on page 78.
And
Ground fault.
And they have to be explosion. Let's see, on question 40 also. It's recovery, page 83, never mind, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's recovery room.
43,
Was,
we kind of went over that last, they don't use a ground bed anymore.
What type, what should be used by circular team members? Oh, Was it listed on a certain page?
No, the
teamwork
rest you
and
have
proper body mechanics.
Page 86.
I'm sorry?
Page 86.
Page 86.
86. Yeah, teamwork and proper body mechanics, proper lifting, proper bending, proper.
So we're getting to a point that I need to start giving you guys tests for certification stuff. So I'm going to start looking at some material for you guys to start studying. Okay.
Alice has us.
So like I have told you guys, this stuff is easy. As we get into the harder chapters, you're going to be required to do presentations, keep up with your homework, which is really important, and then do those exams. On those exams, I just want you guys to know the information, okay? And I'll always give you, not always, but for the most part, I'll give you the opportunity to turn in corrections. And it's because I want you to learn this stuff. I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not giving you a test just to give you a test.
Stuff that you gotta know.
You need to know this. And if you start off right now from the first test till the very end, really giving it 100%, you'll pass that test. But if you just like, I'll do it later when we get closer,
Yeah.
you won't. There's no way. I think there was like a 70% pass rate in the on-campus class, but online they all failed, which really stunk.
So what do they do if they fail? We have to wait.
You can take it again. You can take it up to 2 or 3 times in a year, but every time you take it, it's $200.
You can't work unless you're.
And that's not necessarily true. It really kind of depends on where you go. Anymore around here, they're all saying you got to be certified. And if they got 2 people to choose from, and you're certified and the other one isn't, they're going to choose you.
Certification, yeah. Certification makes a difference.
Yeah. So all I can say is, be serious about it. If you get it wrong, understand why that is not the right answer. Understand what that answer means. If it's this answer, look up that answer and say, okay, why? Because on the test, there's a lot of times where there's 2 good answers. Like, okay, it could be this or this. Choose the one that's the best. Okay.
But when we go through the like your MindTap stuff, and it has your certification style test.
Yeah.
I've kind of been jotting those questions down and double checking, kind of keeping a catalog of them. Is that?
It's helpful.
Kinda helpful.
And I know I did tell you guys, if you can afford it, get that app for your phone. I think it asks you a question every day.
What is it?
I don't know if there's 2 different ones. If there's an AST app, I think if you go to AST, the app is there. Okay. It says study for the NBSTSA exam.
It's AST.org.
AST.org. So I think you can go to either AST or NBSTSA and get that app. And I think it's like $40. Okay. And it asks you questions, provides tests, little things you can take all the time. I suggest you do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it that official NBSTSA CST exam?
Yes.
So it's
CST.
CST.
Yeah, and AST is who wrote our book. NBSTSA is who administers the exam. But they're both, they're together, so. Internet's been really slow today. for it. So I know there's a couple that are gonna go to the conference in Albuquerque. Anybody else?
I'm gonna try.
You can try. Okay, all right.
When was that?
September 30th.
Yeah, so the last Saturday of this month.
Registration is the 22nd. That's it.
That's the deadline for registration.
22nd?
Yeah, and
You
you
just
can,
call a number.
No, my daughter's in.
you can,
I couldn't do it off of Facebook.
could you find the website?
Yeah, there's a certain way.
Yeah, New Mexico AST.
nm.ast.
I think I tried,
It took me a couple of tries to get that.
You got registered?
so I put in NMAST Facebook, and then one of the first things that came up was New Mexico State Assembly.
nm.ast. Then there's New Mexico State
didn't
Assembly,
get
the AST.
It hasn't started.
On that.
But I think I got it.
And then like that.
I got a question.
Mhm.
On Mix, how do you get a YouTube video onto Mix and edit it?
I couldn't
Oh,
I
edit
couldn't
edit
do
it?
it. I could use it just PowerPoint
Yeah.
and put a video, but I still couldn't edit it. Like I wanted to get a video on there, but it was 5 minutes long, and I wanted to like get the beginning and the end out and just show how they set up that.
And then right there,
Argument position.
New Mexico State Assembly.
But I got a 5-minute YouTube video on my Mix.
I don't know if you can edit somebody else's video.
Okay, well, how do you get a YouTube video onto Mix? Do you have to download it onto your computer and then put it?
No, I would think the
You
link,
do
if you just,
You can insert website
Yeah.
video.
And then it'll, YouTube will pop up and
Yeah.
I'll just put the name of it. But it'll be the whole video.
so remember
Do you
when,
have, do you have Roxio?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, okay, Roxio is a whole video editing and production program. Get that on, you take a video, edit it, and save it.
Oh, yeah. Because Mix was asking me to like find it on my computer. Well, I don't have it on my computer. I'm trying to get it off YouTube.
so when you're making your PowerPoint,
Mhm.
remember how Lynn was showing the best way to put in a video is to put,
I remember her talking about it, and it's been a while since
That's the
that
one.
day.
Let me see if this PowerPoint will come up. If it will, I'll show you.
And then-
I have her little handout, but there's like no instructions on it. It's just pictures.
Oh, it's on, her modules, I could have the whole thing.
Okay, I'll have to go.
Well, you know when she was in here talking,
It didn't record?
it didn't
Yeah, so
record.
you scroll
No,
down.
I was
Like,
really
her-
frustrated.
Her original.
Oh, the original one,
Yeah.
yeah, it's in there.
Fill it out. It's $24, you fill it
Let's see if
out.
this comes up. I'll show you if it does.
And then like I tried to watch a YouTube video and have it do a YouTube video at like 11:30 or whatever.
I think it's easier if you just type in the webpage rather than the nm.ast. Just if you go on Facebook, you look under New Mexico State Facebook. I
finished
think
it.
you
So the one you were
can-
talking about is a phone app?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use the phone app.
Phone app, and then you just
Like
It's
right
gonna
in the
be-
last step.
plug into it, we'll ask you questions from
So type in New
example
Mexico
questions from the
State
test or
Assembly.
example type questions.
Examples, yeah. So Ron, when you get to your PowerPoint,
Uh-huh.
this is that one that she made. Just go to new slide. Let's look. We'll try this one.
And I see the icon right there. And that's what I was doing. When I did that, and I have my video in there, you go to format video,
Just don't have it on
and it has all the tools to edit, but they wouldn't let me click on it. It wouldn't highlight.
Oh,
Right, I don't think you can edit somebody else's video, but you can download it into yours here.
So I have to get it myself and then get it.
I don't know if you can do that.
I don't think we
She
can.
showed
I don't
us, I just can't remember how she
You
did it.
can. Well, you can edit your video, but if somebody else made it and you're putting it in, I don't think you can edit it.
She showed us how to
Yeah,
like
you
clip
can.
the intro out of a YouTube video.
And then-
Yeah.
She did it. I just
She
don't know
did?
how to get
Okay.
the tool to.
Oh, yeah.
I know where things at, I just don't know
And then you just.
what I was doing.
Oh, and you just click on it and
You can make each slide a certain time limit, that one, but, so you could cut it off early, but I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Editing someone else's video.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I just didn't want a 5-minute YouTube video on my
It's all right. It's okay, if you want, when it's your turn for your presentation, you can just come up here and fast forward if you want. That's okay, 5 minutes isn't bad.
It's a pretty good video, but it's just kind of old and.
I found one that was good on safety and charge.